Welcome to day 2 of the Centre Court Masters Festival. We had a great day yesterday talking with program directors from, quantitative economics. There were masters in finance, supply chain, the complete portfolio. But I think at the heart of the master's program, certainly one of the most popular and where the world's top business schools, the European top business schools really dominate, is the Masters in Management. So we're starting day 2 with that focus and where it might fit, perhaps in the earlier stages of your career versus the MBA and the many other great graduate management education options. So I feel very privileged to sit down at Centre Court Day 2 with 3 of the world's top business schools. And we welcome Alexandra Barnett, the Director of Recruitment and Admissions for all of the graduate master's programs at the London Business School. You can tell it's LBS because the weather is fantastic in the image behind Alexandra. Virginie Fougia, the Global Director of Admissions and who's always described, after years of bringing in those MBA students, the great energy that this Masters in Management has brought to the school in the last 3 years. And straight from the Formula One tracks, we're also welcoming Javier Guerra. Javier is the admissions director for the Masters in Management that launched 4 years ago at the IESE Business School in Barcelona. So welcome to all 3 of you. Alexandra, just from a comment that we discussed before we went live, you always remember your first class. How many years have you been enjoying welcoming the Masters in Management students to the London Business School?
I've been at LBS for just over 11 years now. The programme, our first graduating class for the Masters in Management was 2010, so slightly before my time.
I mentioned it being sort of European. Certainly, you and other schools dominate rankings of the Masters in Management. Tell us a little bit about the program, in LBS's case, in terms of what it covers and perhaps at what stage we're looking for an individual to think about getting this particular graduate management education.
Yeah, sure, Matt. So it's a 1-year programme we have at London Business School. There's the option to extend that through a 4th term with ourselves or with one of our exchange partners. So there is the option to sort of take that global classroom that I know some of the other schools here today offer through their slightly longer programmes or multi-campus programmes. We cover a broad range of topics in the Masters in Management, anything from sort of your traditional finance, accounting, microeconomics, through to newer cutting edge topics like data analytics, but also embedding things like strategy and performing in organizations. So some of those real career launching skills, and career launching really kind of is the catchphrase, I guess, for those that are joining the program. It's for those that have sort of 0 to 2 years of full-time post-grad experience. The majority of candidates do still join us from their undergrads. Sort of around 70% of the class is joining us straight out of their undergrad program to try and, gain that competitive advantage, really gain the practical skills. So building on the theory they maybe already have, or, pivoting their careers because perhaps they have a really different non-traditional kind of undergraduate degree. And then some join us with sort of 1 to 2 years of either corporate or entrepreneurial experience as well. But that's how we frame the program at London Business School.
Right. It's no light decision, Javier, to launch any program. And as we think about IESE Business School, you had this wonderful portfolio, the full-time MBA program, the exec MBA, many executive education programs. If you go back to the decision-making, 5-6 years ago, we need a Masters in Management. Why was it important to the school to add that to the range of programs available?
Because we were covering all the stages of the professional life of the people, but not the first steps, which is one of the most important stages. Because a misstep in this particular moment and your professional career can go south. Of course, you can go later to an MBA or do an executive MBA, but we thought it's very, very important to guide people at the very early stages. That's why we launched this program particularly, because we saw this gap, okay? And we felt the need to also educate young professionals recently graduated student, when they wanted to start their career, their path in this business world. Because, you know, usually when they finish university, they come from a very theoretical background. So every day studying, every day memorizing, but real life is not like that. The real life, you need to be very dynamic. You need to make decisions. We saw that students are not prepared to do this first step. They go to scholarship, they go to some practices at a company. So what we do here at IESE is to prepare them in a practical way, using a practical perspective. What is real life? So I think it's the most similar scenario to real life they can find. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of that sense of timing, Virginie, you know, similar to IESE, you launched the Masters in Management and welcomed the first class 3 years ago. At the age of 18, I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I'm not even sure that I do today. And so as you sort of reflect on 22, 23-year-olds, do you sort of agree with Javier that it's a great time to bring together this group to really give shape to those early stages of their career?
Yes, and this is very interesting what you just said about not knowing what to do. So this is a part of the students do know what they want to do and why they want to embark on a MIM program at this stage. And some have been through so many different experiences that this is really humbling for us, reading these applications from 19 or 20-year-old applicants. And yet some will not necessarily know what they want to do, and they just feel, I need an additional year of equipping myself for the future. I think a degree in general management, a MIM, will be perfect to continue equipping me. So this is the typically people who've been in studies that were kind of specific, be finance or economics, but with a very, I would say, expertise or specialized degree, undergrad, and then they would like to have more management, or some others who would like to continue and they know they would like to be an entrepreneur at some point. So we see all these different profiles being attracted for a MIM program. And indeed, it's usually people who have just a little bit of under 2 years of work experience and in some internship or a first year of work experience, and they have tried something and they feel that that's not exactly what they wanted. Hence, the MIM makes sense at this stage. So that's what we see typically in the classes.
Right. And I think, Alexandra, that sort of up to 2 years of experience is probably also similar, but someone that's coming straight out of undergrad versus someone that has had a year, perhaps 2 years in financial services, in industry, to then come in, do you find that they then already have quite different perspectives?
I think they do have different perspectives, and it's not necessarily that one's better than the other. You know, when you're looking to start your next sort of corporate role or graduate program, sometimes having that full complement of experience isn't necessarily a turn on to some recruiters, because you may already have been molded in particular analytical thinking or frameworks or models. So it's something we have to kind of carefully consider when we're evaluating candidates. So I do think they have, you know, maybe slightly different expectations, but yeah, people that have already had sort of corporate careers really understand the recruiting cycles, I guess, better. They've been through some of those rigorous processes. They've maybe faced rejection already as well, which actually I think is always a good thing to be able to learn and grow from and have reflected on themselves. Those that maybe haven't experienced that so much because they haven't had that corporate career. Yeah, I don't think one's necessarily better than the other, but of course, those with a bit more experience can maybe add some dynamism to the classroom discussions. But I think that's what's great about our MIM as well. Through the electives, they are multi-generational. They span all the different programs at London Business School. So you're kind of not just restricted to having those conversations with people that maybe are on the sort of lesser side of industry experience. You're going to be exposed to that.
So do you see that often, Alexandra, whether 38-year-old in the exec MBA is hanging out with the 23-year-old in the MIM and sort of experiences the digital native versus the seasoned industry expert?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, these people in the MIM, you know, they are the future of work. They are going to be these people in 15 years' time. So they absolutely aspire to be them. But the people that are, you know, 38 or executive MBAs, these are the people they're going to be bringing through their organization. These are shifting generations. There are things to learn from everyone, regardless of the experiences that you've kind of had previously. So it's something we feel is, you know, really valuable and important for us to do to get that exposure. It is great, I would say, for the MIMs. They obviously get the mentorship side of things as well with our MBA cohorts. So there is a more sort of formal side to it, but informally, yeah, through the clubs, through the classroom, there's so much rich experiences that everyone can take from everyone else.
Right. And have you sort of say that this is perhaps the closest you could get to, you know, real life, or, you know, the world of business in the way that you bring together the discussions in the classroom? Do you feel that having perhaps a year or a couple of years before starting them enriches the insights and the perspectives versus someone that's come straight out of undergrad, maybe, you know, with a very theoretical approach to learning?
Yes, we saw that when we find those consultants in firms like McKinsey, BCG, when they come to our campus to recruit, they tell us, okay, we see a huge difference. Those who have been training the business case methodology, they have this solving problem skill, this analytical skill, they only can get by training, by practicing every day, versus the student that is used to memorize stuff, to learn a lot of things, but they are stuck there in your mind. So when you're in the business, you need to be very agile. You need to relate concepts very quickly. And this is something that only can be done by practicing. It cannot be found in a book. Not by reading a book, you can find these kind of skills. So it's not that we say that, is that the consultancy firm coming here at campus recruiting in all first, because we have a very strong department for career development and also for and they tell us this kind of stuff. So yes, we think it makes the difference. That's why we say we place. Yes, that's why we say we place a student at the pole position of their professional career, because they have a step ahead of the rest.
Right, right, and you doing enough cases during the program at IESE, you're ready to land on your feet at McKinsey, Bain, BCG, other consulting firms. What about on the personal level? Maybe just in terms a sense of maturity, even your personal values, and sort of an ethical compass, and, you know, thoughts about doing better business.
So, well, this is one of the specialization of the IESE, and it's, at the IESE we put focus on values, okay, because we are very focused on human education. So when they get trained in this making decision process, they realize that we are changing their minds. So the training they get from us is not only for business. When they discuss with their partners, they say, okay, now I can really analyze and debate quickly in a better way. The other point you brought up is also very important to us, because one, yes, is very well known because also ethical values. Okay, behind us there is a religious institution. It's not that we try to evangelize the world. It's not about that. It's about packaging the religious values into humans and trying to make a better world. Okay, and only by training the tomorrow's leader in those values, we will be able to make a better world. INSEAD, it's not about evangelizing people. It's about bringing values to them truly. And this is our mission at IESE. So make people, help people to make an impact in the life and the society and in business. Because when they are at the top, they can really make the change. It's easier to make the change, to have a more diverse world, to have a more sustainability world from the top.
Right. Hey, we've only been talking for 10 minutes and we're already talking about this is the future of business, the next generation. And one of the dimensions, Virginie, for that must surely be that the Masters in Management for many of those students will be bringing them together in an international community that perhaps they didn't have been a more domestic group, and suddenly 25, 30, 35 nationalities, that must have a wonderful impact on their sort of cultural understanding in that business context.
That's very true. And the point here is not so much how much people have traveled or how much they would like to travel. It's more of how does that influence you or enrich you to be exposed to so many different cultures, ethnicity, or values. So this is what we when we select applicants for an INSEAD and MIM program in the classroom, we really want to have this challenge and challenging thinking by being exposed to different ways of understanding business in a region. And for that, it's with a diverse class, but it's also with a very diverse faculty body. So within the faculty, you also have people who have done their PhD in the UK, but they have taught in American schools, and then they went to China for treks or for company meetings, and they bring this all this experience and within the classroom. And this is what is really interesting and what people are looking for when we bring them on the MIM, knowing that for MIM students, they all start on our Fontainebleau campus in France, but they will then move as a class, as a cohort, all together on our campus in Singapore. So they stay together, they get the opportunity to stop in Abu Dhabi if they want and be hosted on our Abu Dhabi campus. But the idea is to move as a class, and with the interactions that have already and the network that have already been built, and then move together to Singapore and being exposed to a different environment. So this is the opportunity that we would like to offer.
Right. Now, before we dive into the work of your teams, to bring together this wonderful group every year. Perhaps, Alexandra, just a thought, the Masters in Management, Virginie had mentioned earlier, it's a general management degree. There are lots of other options, from business analytics to Masters in Finance, supply chain, you name it. Within the MIM at London Business School, can you nevertheless take particular electives to really, give you depth in specific areas that you think are then going to be of interest for the next steps in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's great about the Masters in Management program. I mean, we do have other master's programs for those that maybe do want a more specialized offering, but then you maybe in our finance masters, for example, the majority of your electives then have to be taking in the finance field, whereas the MIM doesn't really, it doesn't preclude you from any options. Finance is open to you if you want. I think you can probably see from all of the school's kind of career outputs as well, the diversity that the program can springboard you into. There isn't one entry and one exit. There's a plethora of opportunities through electives, through some of the experiential elements as well. So some of the sort of the treks and our global experiences, they're faculty led, they have different themes, whether it's, sustainability or tech, for example. So you can pursue, a number of different interests. And then of course there's things like the clubs as well, which, there's no limits to, your interests, whether they be professional, personal or social in those clubs. So it really, I always say it's really not a one size fits all program, even though there's this sort of general building blocks underneath. Those are your fundamentals. You can do so many things with those.
Right, and so many options. Perhaps, Javier, as we look at, not just the US job market, which is very hot right now, other parts of Europe where, banks, consulting firms, they're clamoring for talent. So someone might come out of undergrad and say, you know what, I can get a great job, I can go to Deloitte, I can go to Goldman, McKinsey, Google, wherever. Why would I then want to, spend another year at school? How do you sort of respond to that? Do you take a longer term view of what the MIM at this stage will then impact for many years to come?
So our experience, as I said, I commented previously, when you get this MIM and you get this maturity that MIM provides you, you got better position on those companies. Of course, you can start now and you can do the MBA. This is a traditional path. So the traditional path, previously you finished your undergraduate, then you were working for 3, 4, 5 years and you joined the MBA. This still is there. The point there is that you made the mistake of not choosing the right path. So what we do at IESE is not only just training you for this maturity, is to opening up all the range of possibilities. If you already have it clearly, what do you want to do? It's okay, because you can do the MBA later. So our MiM is more focused here. I want to have a global overview of what is in the market. So we will prepare you for data scientists. We will prepare you also for finance. We have several tracks in this sense. So once you have this overview of mind, then you can start running. For example, in my case, I was engineer. I studied engineer. I didn't do any MiM, nothing. When I was, after 3 years just practicing as an engineer, I was bored. So in this case, at this point, I joined the MBA at IESE. So I wish I had this opportunity before, to have this overview of what's in the market and to try to select, to make a better decision of what will be my path, because I lost these 40 years of professional experience. It's not lost, you always learn things. But it wasn't my vocation. So the sooner you have your vocation, the better, the more advantage you will take.
Right. I can see us writing an article together with a headline, "The Things I Wish I Had Known," when I was 22, 20. It might be a very long article. Perhaps it's also, with such a global audience for these events, Virginie, it's also a fantastic opportunity. I mean, you mentioned starting in Fontainebleau, possibly going through the Abu Dhabi campus, then on to Singapore. And so there's this dimension very early in a person's career to get a genuine international experience. I mean, for US students, do you really see that as one of the appeals of studying the MiM at one of the top international schools, to see the rest of the world?
Well, I think it's see the rest of the world, but I think it's even probably a little bit deeper than this. It's also it's seeing the rest of the world, but being able to bring that back to, regardless of their country of origin, bring this back to their companies or to their country. We also very often see people going back, so originally from China, going back to China. And we also have some people saying, well, since I'm in Europe at the moment and I've built my network in Europe, why don't I stay in Europe? You have a lot of countries opening their borders. Some are a little bit more closing down, but you also have countries that are opening their borders and be very happy to hire MiM students. So it's really this opportunity to be exposed, but also to see the world as a possibility for work post-graduation, but not necessarily only post-graduation. It can also be for an internship post-program, and then it can be 2 years down the road after a couple of years of work experience. So it's really being able to open a worldwide network that attracts our students.
Right. So admissions, Alexandra, with colleagues at London Business School, you know, it's not a CV or a resume where you've gone to senior analyst to, you know, 4 or 5 levels if, you know, you've perhaps only been working for a year or 2. So can we start with you with sort of the big picture of what you're looking for in the sort of candidates that the LBS program attracts?
Yeah, I think, Matt, we're very values driven at LBS, and I'm sure I've just come off a phone call with other schools, and I think it was with the IESE actually, and we were talking about your values as well. And I think it's something that drives us to not just search for the one profile. There are things that matter within that. One of our values is to be rigorous, for example. So people that have good, you know, demonstrated successes, whether they be academic or professional, sporting, you know, voluntary experiences. We want people that are really like willing to go outside of their their comfort zone, and not to just, you know, impact for themselves, people that aren't just self-seeking, people that are there to enrich their communities. Yeah, so rigor is something we look for. We're, you know, an open school, so very open-minded. I think that's why we attract a lot of, you know, very diverse candidates. We're curious, so we want people that are equally curious, that are wondering, that are asking the right questions, that don't necessarily have all the answers. And one of our values is to also be inspiring. So as I said, people that are willing to kind of give back and go outside of their comfort zone, and be, you know, a really active, rich part of that community. So it really does go kind of beyond the work experience, the internship, the school. I think that's really helped us in the last few years in terms of sort of diversity of candidates as well, because yes, there are lots of top lists of universities, but if you get fixated on things like that, then you'll just be picking the same candidates again and again. So I think being values driven, and we want candidates that are aligned to that as well. Of course, there are things that we then do ask for. You know, we want a test score from all of our candidates, so a GMAT or a GRE, for example, because that's kind of the only equalizer, I would say, through the admissions process. And we interview every candidate because that for us is incredibly important to have met you, whether it be a member of the admissions team, but more likely a member of the alumni community. So we're really always assessing kind of that two-way fit. So people that are, you know, research prepared, really hungry, really want it, and have a, you know, a cohesive story to tell as well.
Right. Alexandra mentions the idea of, you know, someone that's not just self-serving. And Javier, if I take that further, you know, thinking in an application, an individual says, well, you know, I want to shine, I want to show my, you know, the best of me. But it can be a delicate balance to ensure that that perhaps has a degree of modesty rather than arrogance. What is your advice for candidates to sort of find that balance of, you know, who they are, the impact that they've had, without just saying, it's me, I'm great, it's me, it's me?
So I always advise them to be real, to be whatever they are, because our admission process is quite simple. We are looking only at 2 points. One is the person, the values. That's why we do 2 interviews. One is the info interview, and the other is the process interview. And in the process interview, the only objective is not a job interview. I always tell them, don't be nervous, don't freak out, because it is not a job interview. We want to get to know you very well, because you are going to be part of the family. And we only want to be sure that you fit in our family, because if you don't fit in our family, it's bad for you and it's bad for us. So we are just looking for the best of both. This is a relationship. So that's why we dig into their values, into the personal life. If you don't join IESE, there are a lot of business schools out there that you can join. It's a matter of matching your interests and the interests. It's not, I want to be IESE, I want to, no, it's not about that. It's about fitting, it's your professional life. It's a lot of money. So don't freak out, because there are many options out there. So we do these 2 interviews just to be sure they fit within our criteria and their criteria as well, the both of us. The other thing is that we get to know, the second point we look at IESE in the admission process is we want the best in class. Okay, they have to be values, but we also want the best, because in a lecture, when you go to a lecture, the lecture is as good as the professor is. So if the professor is good, the lecture is brilliant, but is it not the case in the business discussion? The business discussion, the session is as good as the students are. They are ingredients, very important ingredient of the process. So if we don't get the best of the students there, the discussion worth nothing. And no one wants to be surrounded by people that don't add on top of the discussion. So those are the 2 main criteria. They have to have value, and they also have to be the top of the class. In order to have a fruitful discussion and get something from the session, because the professor is not going to go there to do the speech or the talk. It's going to challenge you in front of the class. So you are going to develop also the public speaking capability. because under pressure, you need to defend and you need to think very fast. And this is what is happening in real life, in business. When you're in a meeting with your boss and your boss is just picking you and is stressing you, you need to be very fast and also be very calm down to defend your position and your argument. So that's why, in summary, we need the best in the class and also people willing to grow in their values.
Right. I suppose with the programs, the caliber of your world-class programs, we often talk about leadership, certainly at this stage, the potential for leadership. It can be something that is off-putting for some candidates. A lot of research that say that whenever women see leadership, they're like, no, that's not for me. I mean, that's an unfortunate reality. So Virginie, as candidates thinking, how can I demonstrate to INSEAD that sort of potential for leadership? Where can they look? It's not just in a job title, perhaps it's things that they've done at college or university or in their community. What advice would you give for people to show how they've had that positive impact?
This is an interesting question, and it's really going in depth in the work that we do, the art of management. How do we assess potential for leadership? I think we see it by understanding what people have done during university, whether they have participated in some clubs or sporting activities, anything that is roles that they have played in those clubs will enable us to understand how their leadership potential and how they will contribute in the class. So that can be through any experience during the studies, but that can also be through their internships or their work experience. The idea is that it's as Javier said, it's not so much of trying to showcase who you are and pushing content to us, but it's really this match. And with the leadership is by extrapolating what we read in the letters of recommendation of what people have already accomplished, then we can extrapolate and understand what people will be able to do in the future and be able to contribute. For example, we have a Robin Hood campaign where people raise funds within their own class, and we need ambassador for that. So we want to understand who could be a good ambassador for this sort of roles. This is one out of many others, and the Robin Hood is as part of the Force for Good mission that we have at INSEAD for all programs. But the whole class participated, so we need people who will be leaders for the class. But that's just an example. It can be for something else. It can be for a finance club, or it can be for the Romba, the LGBTQ club. It can be for any sort of activities like this inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. This is the reason why we want to assess the leadership potential, but also obviously for the future, for your future careers, that we want to understand this sort of leadership. And there are many different leadership skills and many leadership ways of being leaders. So this is what you have to explain in the application form in a very authentic way, and don't try to fit a perfect mold or template where you have, as Alessandra said, one size doesn't fit all. It's not that. It's not the case. We need really to make sure that we have the possibility to know who you are.
And so that theme of look at that and I say, that's the average GMAT score. Oh, that's the average GPA. It's higher than mine. Most people seem to do engineering or economics at undergrad, and I did art history. It can almost be excluding, because the document is just a snapshot, right? But beyond extraordinary diversity. So when our viewers perhaps are looking at the incoming class at LBS, how would you encourage them to use that document and say, it's just the start, there's so much diversity that lies behind that?
think the snapshot changes every year. So if you've been keeping an eye for a few years as well, you'll notice those needles move, and we don't go in saying, this is what we want the class to look like, because we're not thinking in silos. We're not thinking we need these people to fit this mold. And I think diversity is ever evolving as well, particularly, around neurodiversity as well. I think there is the appreciation of those that aren't just the me, shouty leaders, the extroverts versus the introverts. And I think it's great to witness that as well. I think statistics, they give you a snapshot. They give you an idea of, maybe the quality of your peers and the expectations coming in. But, to make up an average, there are hundreds of individuals in that average, people all the way at this end of the spectrum to this end. And I guarantee not everyone is at this end of the spectrum for sure, or they don't have everything. There's so many things that are immeasurable on there as well. Yes, we do measure your average GMAT, and we're looking at, GRE averages as well. We have a finite amount of experience we're looking for, but beyond that, what's great about the MiM is that it can open doors for so many people. As Javier said, people that have only had that business theory before, it's really a chance to gain practical understanding. But if you do come from your art histories or your literature, it's it might be a really, really different experience to come into the MiM program. And that's why it's important for us to use things like the GMAT to test, your aptitude. But that's, no one generally has aptitude for one thing, right? And I think that's what's great about the MiM. It's going to expose you to so many different things. One thing we don't really give stats on is kind of, and we get asked about a lot is, what are your rates? What are your ratios? Like, really don't focus on things. It's going to give you no indication about how that's going to get you further forward. I'd say focus on telling your story. I think other panelists have said, that authenticity, as Virginie said, and, reaching out to the community, do your research. As Javier said, you want to be somewhere that's going to fit you as well. It's not just something you kind of buy off the shelf and worry about later. You have to go into this thinking, am I the right fit for this school? Do I want this brand for life? You're assessing us as much as we are assessing you. So I think go in with that mindset as well. Not everyone makes it onto the program, but not everyone we give an offer to. Unfortunately, not everyone wants to accept that offer. They may go elsewhere as well. So it's really important to find that two-way fit.
Yeah. You're making me sad now. In terms of doing the research, perhaps that then takes us to the idea of getting to better know the schools. So, Javier, if I sat down with some of the recent graduates of the MiM program at IESE, what do you think they would tell me? What would be memorable in the personal journey that they've had?
Well, what they say when they finish the program is the experience they live, the truly international experience they live here on campus, because 80% of the students are from any part of the world. We have from China, we have from India, we have from USA, from Peru, from Europe, all kinds of. So gathering those diversity during 1 year in such an intensive experience is like making friends forever. So your friendship usually is elaborated under a stressful situation. When you live such an intensive life, all of a sudden your bonds are forever. It's very difficult. You will end up going to the wedding of your friends, to the baptism that you baptize the friends, so all the important life. And this is what they get from here. It's not only that they go a step forward in maturity, is that they go truly friends for life and friends from any part of the world. Because it's like we are living in a stressful situation with people we all want to go ahead, go over the process. They all pass, and if they don't pass, it's our fault. When someone get a part in the way, it's because we didn't do our admission process properly. We have to think and to have feedback, because it should not happen. It's very stressful. We have students struggling all the time. They think they are going to die, and when they are going to die, just we release the pressure. So they never end up dying. but the process is intended for everyone admitted to be able to go until the end. So this intensive process with those friendships, this is the kind of thing they remember forever.
Right. With your colleagues, Virginie, in the INSEAD admissions office, you're a first point of contact for this quite remarkable journey that then unfolds. So as you think about people that you've met through info sessions and ultimately perhaps their applications, and then watching them go through the class, now they can master discounted cash flow, they've got these digital marketing skills and other things. As you look at the person you first met, and then perhaps the person you see at graduation, what sort of change do you observe? Is it an intangible sort of confidence that they now have? What do you see?
It's probably very intangible. I agree with you. It's probably some sort of willingness to discover even more, curiosity. It's an appetite for keeping this sort of momentum of discovering new things or learning from peers, learning from faculty, and they want to keep that within their future jobs and being exposed to different activities or to different challenges. So this sort of curiosity exist a little bit before, and this is probably why they want to embark on an INSEAD MiM, but also that stays with them. And this is linked to, so I would say curiosity, but also linked to some sort of reciprocity of this is what I've gained, and this is what I hope I can contribute and give back or give to others who will join after me an INSEAD program. That stays with them. Maybe this is thanks to the program director, maybe this is thanks to faculty, I don't know, but the first classes, as you say, it's our we have 3 classes and we recruit the 4th one at the moment, and the willingness to help from the pioneers, the first class, in the interview process or with marketing events or with helping for any sort of questions that prospective applicants have, is incredible, and I find that very nice for people who have just graduated a couple of years ago for a program that was still new, and they walk the talk, and this is really, really great.
That must be an aspect that's incredibly rewarding for all 3 of you in terms of individuals where you saw those qualities, and here they are now, giving back just a few years later with such positive energy. So I suppose as we wrap up, Alexandra, London Business School, starting with the MiM, but I could go all the way through to the Sloan program. Just anyone that's thinking, okay, when's the right time for this? Javier spoke very clearly about the years perhaps that he spent before really being on the right path with his MBA. But if someone's saying to you, the MiM now, the MBA perhaps 3-4 years from now, how do you sort of help them weigh up that choice and make an informed decision?
Yeah, it's definitely a question we get a lot. And I think particularly if you're so set on maybe one school that really appeals to you, you're probably thinking, well, I won't do one program. And like, if I do want to do the MBA, I'm probably realistically not going to do it at this school, because why would you buy the same network twice? Frankly, there are other places, you might want to expand to. So yeah, it is a tricky question if you are really set on a particular school for a reason. What I would generally say is, reflect on where you are now, talk to, mentors, talk to people who've been in your shoes, and see, is this path going to be the one for you? What I would say about a MiM is that, yeah, apart from maybe not going back to the same school again, it's not going to stop you doing the MBA. We have students that have gone on to do it. I know people at Wharton at the moment. I was just in New York and connected with somebody who knows a former colleague of mine, because he's now done the Chicago MBA, because people's life paths change. We are going to have these 100-year lives. We're not going to have this traditional model of, work for a bit, find your career, stay there for a long time, retire early and go. So yeah, I would say the MIM's not going to stop you sort of getting to that next level or that next step. I think it really, when you look at the difference between, even if you just purely take the rankings and you look at kind of the salary differences between, if you don't have this program and you do, the return on investment, I would say, is there. You're investing in your network, you're investing in those early opportunities, you're getting the potential to maybe change geographies as well, that a door that may not be open to you if you don't pursue this path. Right. So it's a cost opportunity, and there'll be different reasons for doing or not doing the program.
Right, and as you say, wouldn't preclude doing an MBA later. That speaks perhaps to what Virginie was saying about curiosity, being forever a student, forever learning from peers and from others. So Javier, next steps to find out more about the IESE Masters in Management program, your team, info sessions you're organizing, talking to alums. What do you recommend for our viewers?
So my recommendation would be to go to our open days. For example, we are organizing one open day, the 22nd of November. Also calling us, contacting with me. I can put my email there or my WhatsApp. We are also very agile using WhatsApp. I'm very fast in this day. So my recommendation is go to the open day and live the experience of a case discussion. But I always say, be careful, because an online open day is not the same an in-live open day. It's like listening to music in Spotify or going to a live concert. So you like your music, okay, you can listen to Spotify and you can come here to our open day. But if you really want to enjoy the live concert, I do invite people to come to our on campus and to join one of our real sessions with other students, and they can talk to them, they can have life to them. We will not be there while they are having lunch and asking questions. So they can ask any question, and my student which we will answer truly. So, but I do recommend going to the Spotify online open day and coming to the on-campus live concert and joining our session, because this is an incredible experience. And well, I don't know if now the time to give my email or wherever, or maybe later we have a chance, but contacting by email as well.
Great. And thank you for such sort of warmth and openness. If you don't mind, that Spotify live concert contrast is a great one. I'll use that in the future. A final word, Virginie, you're one of the most distinguished members of our industry and have seen so many individuals thinking about the investment. You're going back to school. What are your thoughts about why that's such a good idea? Ultimately, investing in yourself for your future. Why has that always made such sense to you?
To me, or to prospective applicants?
To you, with all of the candidates that you've seen and what it's meant to their lives.
So you are nicely referring to my 25 years in graduate management education.
I just said distinguished.
and with INSEAD, actually. And this is what keeps me, let me share a secret with you. It's just discovering what people have to say in an application form, and meeting new people every day, and reading applications. And people put a lot of efforts in their application, taking the GMAT or the GRE, getting really the best in their application. So this is, we owe them a real thorough process of evaluation, and listening to the videos, reading the essays, and discovering who is behind an application is really what keeps me, and what is great in our roles and graduate management education in general. And this is, I think, what is the value also of transforming people and transforming lives. So this is very philosophical, but this is how I will close this this session.
Well, I feel blessed, because it's like I have Adele, Harry Styles, and Angèle. I mean, the passion that you have, the years that you've been looking at these applications to the programs, and just to be able to It's something intangible, as we mentioned, but you're extraordinary ambassadors for your schools. Our viewers will be watching this perhaps on the live stream or in the weeks and the months to follow. So do check out the live concert, open days, talk with the alums, reach out to the schools. You can see how warm and enthusiastic and passionate they are. Alexandra, Javier, Virginie, it was lovely to have this first session of the day with the three of you.